All right, so this is week 4 of the Jesus Dojo, and this is the week that we're all really excited about because this is where we put our money where our mouth is. This is where we've been learning at the feet of Jesus in community, and now it's time to go out and incorporate that learning into our way of life. Remember, Dojo just means the way or practice of. And so that's what we're doing. We're just learning from Jesus, but then we're actually going to leverage what we're learning in community to agree upon as a community just one practice from what we've been learning that we're going to incorporate for the next 4 weeks of our lives. Because here's something that we learned at the feet of Jesus as we learned and just looked at his life in the Gospels, is that there was this rhythm of sending and returning, sending and returning, sending and returning that he worked into his discipleship. He was not afraid to send out the disciples to live out the mission that he had called them to while they were still very much in process. Even in the passage that we're looking at as a community tonight, Luke 10, that's early on in the discipleship process for these disciples. In fact, we see ongoing throughout the disciples that this is just the pattern that Jesus establishes, is that he will send them out to live out instructions or to live out what it means to be a follower of him without him while they were still in process. And they would learn. Sometimes they would succeed like they do in this passage. Other times, a lot of times, they would fail. I remember a professor, a lecturer came through a seminary when I was going through seminary, and he called the disciples the disciples. I'll never forget that, because you see in these moments, in these stories, as they were following Jesus, they made a lot of boneheaded mistakes, and even Peter, who ended up being Jesus' closest follower, and ended up launching. Jesus used him to help launch the church, used him in a powerful way. He made so many kind of like just ridiculous moves because he was still in process. He was learning in action. He was learning what it meant to follow Jesus by actually doing the way of. And that's what we're going to do in the Jesus Dojo. We're going to send you guys out for 4 weeks. We're not going to gather just to learn anymore. We're like, why learn anything if we're not actually putting it into action in our lives? And this is where I'm going to reference this big fancy word here on the whiteboard is appropriation. And for years and years and years, whenever I've done a Bible study or even outside of church context in school, you always hear this word application. How are you going to apply that to your life? And something always bothered me about that, especially when it comes to faith, is that you can apply anything to your life without actually meaning it. You can apply any sort of activity or action. You can actually, technically, you can even disagree with it, yet you can still apply it. So I will say that yes, we're going to do application, but the word that I like better is appropriation, because it just means to take it into yourself. We are called to be transformed by the life of Jesus, and we want your faith, as you are following about him, we want it to be appropriated into who you are. We don't want it just to be an action that you do, but we want this action that you do to end up transforming who you are. You are appropriating the Christian faith into who you are, that as we go about the doing, God uses that to transform who we are. And then, just like Jesus did with his disciples, after we adopt this action as a community tonight, then we send out, after those 4 weeks of being sent out to apply and hopefully appropriate the way of Jesus into our lives, then we're going to come back and we're going to tell stories. Just like Jesus did in this with his disciples. They came back and they were so excited. They couldn't wait. They were bursting at the seams to tell them what had happened. Well, we're going to open up an opportunity for us to start building this into the rhythm of what it means to be a follower of Jesus, is that you're a part of a community that learns at the feet of Jesus, then is sent out to go and do, and then come back and flesh out. Man, this went really good. I saw God move in this way. It was awesome. Or, man, I kind of didn't even try, or I forgot, or I couldn't figure out a way to build this into my rhythm of my life, this action that we adopted as a community. I couldn't really figure it out. And then you say, hey, no big deal. This is a no condemnation zone, but how can I help you do that next time? How can I be a help to you in living out the way of Jesus? So this is the rhythm we're going to do. We're super excited to hear and collect stories. We'll see you again for more learnings in the next 4 weeks. We've barely tapped even the tip of the iceberg on all the richness of the life of Jesus and the Gospels. And we can't wait to hear stories about what you did, but then again, come back and learn again at the feet of Jesus. So your leaders will take you through the decision-making as a process, and we hope and pray for you that it is fruitful and appropriate into your life, the way of Jesus.